Hello, and welcome to the Wine Enthusiast Podcast, your serving of drinks culture and the people who drive it. I'm Jake Abrams, assistant editor here at Wine Enthusiast. If you've been anywhere near social media or a television set in the past 3 years, chances are you've heard of The Bear. The Emmy Award-winning series has taken the culinary world by storm for its raw, intimate portrayal of restaurant life. And this season, it gave wine some long overdue screen time. To talk about what it means to play a wine professional on TV, I sat down with actor Corey Hendricks, who plays the quietly compelling sommelier Soubise on The Bear, and Alpana Singh, the trailblazing former Master Somm, who recently made a surprise cameo in the show where she played herself. We get into everything: sommelier mannerisms, wine stereotypes, and what real representation in wine media actually looks like. Thank you both for joining us. Before we dive into the conversation, I just wanted to talk about the Emmy noms. Corey, congrats. The Bear was nominated for 13 Emmys, the third season specifically. It's really awesome. Your initial thoughts and reaction?
Always excited, man. Always grateful to be a part of a show like this.
And congrats on the fourth season.
Thanks.
Really, really great reviews. So just let's get into Sweeps. So he did not start out as a wine professional, but definitely by the end of season 4 for sure is. So what's it been like stepping into that role?
It's been fun, man. Prior to the whole Somm, announcement, it was like, what's going on with Sweeps? What's his direction? Where's he headed? We knew he had a history in the minor leagues in baseball, but I felt like Sweeps was still on his journey to kind of find himself. Like the beef for Sweeps was his home is a place that he can call home. But I still think, he was wondering like what's next for me, especially once the restaurant was transitioning from the beef to the Bear, and everybody kind of got new tasks. And it was like, what's next? So I think for Sweeps, this new journey kind of like it's like a rebirth for him almost,
Yeah,
especially,
totally.
especially with wine being like it's like his own entity, man. It's like his own world,
For
honestly.
sure.
It's like his own
Yeah,
world. So like
yeah.
Sweeps, it's like the minor leagues, he was chasing something. Now like going into the Somm world, it's like it can almost like be his return to glory in a way,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So how did that role come together? How did you
It's a,
become Sweeps?
well, I auditioned for the role initially, just like a regular audition. So I think it was a
Yep.
Zoom audition,
Mhm.
and I think that initially I auditioned for a different role, different character, and
Oh, interesting.
then yeah, and I think for the next audition, maybe callback, they wanted me to read for Sweeps, or I realized it was a different character, and I felt like I may have done something wrong. I'm like, wow, man, they don't want me for the other guy, but the other guy was just like a day player. It was just one episode, so I'm glad I didn't get that.
Yeah,
But
awesome.
yeah, so it turned into like just a great thing with Sweeps, man.
Yeah. Did you have any prior like wine or restaurant experience in your own life before this?
No, like restaurant, not really. Like I've worked in the cafeteria when I was in college, so like
Same. Yeah.
that's maybe the closest thing. I think I gained some interest in wine some years back, and I always told myself like that's something I need to get into. But wine can be intimidating, man. So
For
it's
sure.
like I kind of wanted to dabble a little bit, never really looked into it as much. And then I remember some years back there was a film called, I think on Netflix, Uncorked, and it was about a
Yeah.
black dude becoming a sommelier. And at that time I had never heard the word sommelier, so I was like, sommelier, what's this a thing? And I watched the film, and around that same time, the NBA players Dwayne Wade and maybe Carmelo Anthony, they're both
Yeah.
wine guys.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I saw like something with them on TV, and I was like, oh wow, these dudes are really into wine. They were having a conversation. And it was almost like they were speaking a different language. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a big thing in the NBA, which is
yeah,
interesting. I mean, we've had, I think, Carmelo on, Tony Parker, like all of these guys are really into wine. It's really cool
yeah,
to see that happening.
they're all comparing like their wine cellars and stuff. It's like really,
I know, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
you wouldn't expect it.
You hear about guys like on road trips, like bringing wines and gifting them to other players that they know are interested.
Yeah,
It's a really cool phenomenon that I think is pretty isolated to basketball at the moment.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. But so you were sort of into wine, but there's a barrier to entry to it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like again that barrier is just it's intimidating because it's so much for you to learn, so much to know. Even once I saw on the page like for season 3, I saw we were going in that direction for Sweeps. I'm like, oh, he's going to train to be a sommelier. So I'm like, this gives me the best reason excuse ever to like learn more about wine and start drinking more wine and stuff like that. So that was cool. But even once I tried to dive in and just started reading more and going to wine tastings and people recommend books, I was like, this is kind of overwhelming.
It's
This
a
is a
lot. Yeah.
this is a
It's
lot.
it's one of those things where the more you know about it, the more you sort of realize how much you don't know about it.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, I'm just learning about this whole new category of thing that I need to dedicate years studying."
Hmm.
It's intimidating.
It
Um,
was.
Yeah. But through working as sweeps, do you feel an interest toward wine in your own life? Are you a wine drinker outside of the
Oh,
show?
definitely, bro. So what season 3 was last year. Since learning about this for season 3, I've drank so much wine, bro. Like,
Really?
like prior to this, I wasn't drinking like any wine. Now I've
Yeah,
drank
yeah.
so much wine.
Lot
Like,
of blind tastings, quote
I don't care
unquote, at
what it
home.
is. It's like somebody
Yeah.
can pass me some wine. I'm just like sniffing the glass. People are gonna be like, "What's wrong with Corey?" Like, "Oh, nothing, nothing." They're like,
Do you have any favorites? Not to put you on the spot.
no, I mean, I like red wines. I'm
Yep.
starting to like white wines a little bit more. At first, I didn't like white wines at all. I like Cabernet Sauvignon. I definitely
Yep.
like. I couldn't go wrong with those. I had a I actually think I was at Oakville, like last week. I had a good Pinot Noir. I feel it
Nice.
was. So like I've been having so much wine, and then of course if I say like, well, I'm not into white wines, but then I go somewhere like Oakville, then like the wine professional's like, well, let me find a good white wine for you. And they
Yeah.
find something, and it changes my mind. And then I'm like, oh, well, this is not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so you were sort of talking about Sweep's backstory earlier. He was a minor league baseball player in the Cubs farm system, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that okay? And I know, just from looking at the internet and my own personal interest, like I think people are super interested in that. I think there was a shot of you in the batting cage this season that was in the trailer or
Yes.
something like that, and people were really excited for some exposition there. Is that something that could be in the works for next season?
I mean, no one's told me anything like that. I'm always hoping it could be like whatever
Yeah.
direction they want to go, but I think because it's the people know like that's the one thing they know. Sweeps actually was in the minors.
Yeah.
So that's like so prior to that, we know nothing else about Sweet. He was in the minors, and now he's trying to become a Somm. So when the trailer came out and everyone saw me in the batting cage, I read the comments online a lot too. They were definitely like, Sweet was in the batting cage. Are we gonna get the backstory now? I was gonna see him play. So I definitely saw that whole thing like kind of spiral, and I'm here for it, bro. If they want to address it that way and go down that road, but again, I never really know
Hmm.
until like the new season's coming and I get the
Right.
script,
Right.
and it's like it's a surprise to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very interested.
I thought earlier on, like the first couple of seasons, I did think we may was going to explore that, but we didn't. So
Hmm.
I don't. But I thought
Yeah,
that
we've
was the
seen a lot of
direction.
solo episodes, but I'm just waiting on the Sweeps backstory. So he's, I'm assuming, a Cubs fan.
Yeah, Sweet is a
Okay.
Cubs fan.
Yeah. Now you yourself being from Chicago, do you feel that way as well?
No, so me myself being from Chicago, I'm not much of a baseball fan, but it's weird. My dad was a White Sox fan, so like I may be a little more, you know,
Yeah, it's an underdog story.
yeah. I mean a little more partial to the. But then my cousins, I have like plenty of cousins that are Cubs fans, or like diehard Cubs fans.
Yeah,
So
that's like the original underdog story.
yeah,
But
yeah,
now they're good, and the White Sox are definitely not. So,
yeah. The White Sox
um,
are like making news for the wrong things, but.
yeah. Um, Alpana, you grew up in California, correct?
I did. I was born and raised in Monterey, California. Moved out to Chicago when I was 23, which was hard to believe now 25 years ago. So I've lived in
Wow. Yeah.
Chicago longer than I was in California. So I consider myself a Chicagoan now.
Awesome. Does that give you the ability to weigh in on the Cubs White Sox debate?
Well, the Sox have the Pope. I mean, come on.
That's true. Yeah. There is
It
a
doesn't
yeah.
get it doesn't get bigger than the Pope. So
Yeah.
although the Dalai Lama's verdict is still out, maybe he's a Cubs
Oh man,
fan.
right.
We'll have to
Although
see
the Dalai
what
Lama
he
would
says.
love all teams. He would love all
That's
teams.
true. He just wants everybody to have fun.
If we find out the Dalai Lama's from Rogers Park or something, then the Cubs may have something going.
Um, that's great. So it was really awesome. I mean, just as a fan of the show, I mean, I felt like in the first couple of seasons, wine took a backseat, which is not, it's a show about the restaurant and a show about food and chefs. But it was really awesome to see you in the show and them sort of dedicate time to the wine. We hadn't seen that before. Well, how did that cameo come about?
It's been actually a couple years in the works. So I met Chris at the Welcome Conference here in Chicago.
Mhm.
He was a speaker. I was a speaker. So, we're talking backstage and, big fan of the show. I think it had just started season 2. So Donnie Medea and I and Kevin Bame and Eric Williams were the organizers. And we're just sitting there going, who should we have on? I said, oh, we should have Chris on. The Bear. It's such a good show. And I think it would resonate with the audience. And then Donnie's like, oh, I know Chris. He used to work for me. So we got Chris in, and so that was my initial meeting with Chris, and then I
Mhm.
just kinda said, "Hey, if you ever wanna, like, talk Somm on the show, you know where to find me, and I just left it out, launched it into the universe. And then about a year and a half later, I got a call from Will Gadara, who is an executive producer, or I think he was a writer on the show as well. And he's like, "Hey, listen, we want to incorporate you somehow." And I said, "Oh, I was actually contacted by some folks at the Bear to audition for something." And so we've been working for a couple of years to try to figure out how to bring wine in and, specifically me in. And then I met with Tyson, who's one of the executive producers. He came into the restaurant with Duccio, who's the director of the episode that I was in. And, I just said, this is sort of my vision. I think this is such a tremendous opportunity to tell the story about Sweeps and connecting him to wine. And like I said, I can't speak for his story because I'm not the writer and he's not my creation. I can only speak to how I see myself in the character. And there were a lot of similarities from what I could see. I didn't grow up with money. My parents are not wine collectors. My parents migrated to the United States in the 70s. My birth certificate lists my father's occupation as a dishwasher. So I'm a restaurant kid, but did not grow up with a big wine collection and things like that. And, both my parents are just working class immigrants. And I got into it, and there is a path for people like me who can get into wine, pursue it at the highest level of excellence and passion, and I see a lot of those elements in Sweeps. And so, we talked about it at length. I said I would love an opportunity where, he comes here, I mentor him, and as luck would have it, it manifested into that very situation. So I was very grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah. I think it's super significant that the Bears having characters like Sweeps and having you, Alpana, on. What do you think the significance is of in a traditionally, wine is seen as elitist and, these kinds of things in the media. Is it helpful to have people like Sweeps and Alpana in the show as prominent members of a wine world?
Well, I think it reflects who works in restaurants. Restaurants, immigrants are the backbone of the restaurant industry, and it's only natural that people fall in love with the business. What's nice about wine is you can actually work in hospitality and pursue it as a career. And like, unfortunately, our culture looks upon waiters as sort of like, well, what do you really do? Like, what do you, is this sort of it's not a career. It's not something that a lot of people respect, which I think is horrible. Restaurant work is noble work. And the one exception where people, kind of go, wow, that's kind of a big deal is with the sommelier part of it.
That's true.
But I think it's extraordinarily significant, particularly with Corey, being a person of color, because I think it accurately reflects who works in restaurants and how
Mhm.
people connect to it and how you can pursue it as a career and you can pursue it as a passion. And it's one that people, quote unquote, take seriously.
Yeah. So, Alpana, what was it like then playing yourself? Is that something that you overthink? Because I think I would.
Well, no, I mean, it was for me, and I met with Corey and I met actually about a month before, and we did a little boot camp. I told him about my story, and it was really important for me to convey to him my intention with what I want to do with this opportunity, because let's face it, it's a huge opportunity.
Of course.
The Bear is so beloved by the restaurant community for the fact that they accurately portray and have this dedication to telling the stories of the restaurant world in a very compassionate, accurate way. And I wanted to honor that privilege by doing my homework and, just wanting to sort of like, what do I want to do with this? And, Sweeps, that character is going to mean so much to so many young men and women out there who are working in the business, and they see a reflection of themselves and a possibility of what they can become, particularly at a time in our business where wine is on the decline. Gen Z is not so into it. Millennials, there's for good and bad reasons.
Mhm.
But I think that, just sort of like what Succession did for certain brands like Brunello Cucinelli, some of these like quiet luxury brands, wine needs to go viral. And I thought, well, if a show like The Bear that's watched by 5 million people makes wine cool and you kind of see it for that angle of where somebody's passionate about it and it kind of transports you to a certain place. And it's not just something to get drunk off of, that it's an experience and it can be part of a life well lived. I wanted to just kind of pay homage to really also my profession. And out of respect for my colleagues out there, I wanted to do a good job. And also, I told Corey, I said, dude, I need you to get this right.
Yeah, yeah,
I need you to get this
yeah.
right.
It's
I
important.
said, this is, because this is the first time that wine is going to be portrayed on this show. Like, no pressure. And I also told Corey, I said, you're about to become the face of sommeliers in America. And I said, it's a good thing you like wine because people are just going to bring you wine because you're the Somm of the nation. I said, I would expect wineries to reach out to you, particularly as this character progresses. And I really do hope that the writers, dig deeper into Sweeps because it's such a rich character. And there's so many themes about having a vision and having a dream and not giving up on that dream and pursuing it and getting so obsessed with something that nothing's going to get in your way of achieving it. And one thing that I like a lot of things about the bear, but really what it's a show about is the bear itself as an entity. The restaurant is this temple for people who have found their purpose in life. And everybody, and I've heard it so many times on the show, this is my purpose. This is what I'm meant to do. Like, it gives me goosebumps to think about it. And, whether you want to pursue wine or not, just watching Sweeps just change and morph. He's wearing the suits now. He's got this swagger and just like seeing him blossom and bloom is really such an inspirational story. And I think that viewers really connect with that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and what we're seeing him do is are things that Psalms actually do, which I think if more people saw, they'd find it fascinating, which is, blind tasting and, just trying to find the differences between vintage. It's really fascinating stuff to watch, especially when someone is like, able to do it successfully. It can be magical.
I mean, I don't expect people to understand it. It's kind of like understanding Kobe Bryant's work ethic. You can't
Yeah,
understand it. You can only marvel at it.
exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and you can't waste your time trying to there's a lot of quirky things that sommeliers do, but it's one of those things that if you know, you know. And I told Sweeps as part of his, he was researching the character, I said, "You have to get into the frame of mind where wine is the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning, and it's the last thing that you think about when you go to bed at night. That's what it takes to become a master sommelier. To pass that test, you have to get obsessed with it." And it can seem delusional, it can seem deranged to the outside world, but it only makes sense once you succeed, and then people wanna know, "Well, how did you do it?" And you tell them, "I didn't have a choice but to do it. There was no other option for me."
Yeah. I think that's how it has to be, especially when you get further along in that, 4 test course. It has to be an obsession and something
With
that is just
anything in
the
life,
only. That's true.
anything.
Yeah.
You have to get obsessed with it. You do. It's, yeah, it's just, like that vision is just so clear in your mind that you have to give birth to it in reality. And it's really obsessed with that idea. And whether it's wine, whether it's being an actor, whether it's, being an editor of a magazine, whatever it is, you have to become obsessed with it.
Mhm. So you passed the Master Sommelier test when you were 26. What were the most important things that you wanted to get right on screen?
So I have a SAG card. So
Uh-huh.
this isn't my first dabbling in television. Um, this is my first, Emmy award winning, Golden Globe winning show. And notice I said first. I hope that it's not my last, but it's my first. So, no, I just wanted it to be natural, and I wanted it to convey. I didn't want to betray the show. And I didn't wanna take people out of that moment, like, when you watch such a great show like The Bear, you just get like, everything stops. The outside world stops. And I watch, like, TV and television's my passion, and movies are my passion because it's the only time, that I have for things for I can disappear for 2 hours. But I just wanted to make sure that I really accurately went in with this mindset so that it would convey itself on screen as to not take people out of the moment where it's like, "Oh, wait, what happened here?" Because then you betray the character. You betray not necessarily me, but I wanted to do right by Corey by making sure that I didn't take away from his journey where it just kind of went, well, this seems kind of disjointed. So I listened to a lot of Matthew McConaughey. So Matthew McConaughey he goes, I gotta know my man. I gotta know my man. I look at my man at 1 o'clock in the morning. I come back to him at 8 o'clock in the morning. I look at him when he's tired. I look at him when he's happy. Like, what would my man do? I gotta take care of my man. And I was actually training with my trainer. I said, "Oh my god, I got to meet with this guy this morning. My friend Sydney's sending him over." I said, "He's a sommelier for this new restaurant," and she's like, "Ah, he needs help." And so, I'll see where he is. And she's like, "Wait, what's going on?" I said, "Oh, I'm method acting with you."
Nice.
She's like, "I totally thought you were like for real." And I said, "No," I said, "I'm basically going through the motions of what it would be like if I had to meet with this guy because I have to meet with these guys all the time."
Mhm,
Like I'm always like meeting with people, seeing where they are, how's it going, what's going on. Mentorship is a huge part of what we do in this community.
mhm.
So I try to make time when possible. It's not always possible, for people to sort of, quote unquote, pick my brain.
In addition to producing world-class content, did you know that Wine Enthusiast is also the premier shopping destination for wine lifestyle products? Just visit our shop at wineenthusiast.com, where you'll discover an amazing assortment of unique quality items guaranteed to enhance your wine experience. From glassware and accessories to thousands of unique wine gifts, it's like a toy store for wine lovers. And don't forget about protecting your wine. We are the nation's leading retailer of wine storage products. Whether you have 6 or 600 bottles, desire a wine cabinet, or a custom-designed wine room, our free wine storage consultations will help you find the perfect wine fit for your collection. Visit wineenthusiast.com today. We bring wine to life. Brought to you by the Wine Enthusiast Shop.
When you were studying, did you sort of have things you struggled with, like Sweeps does, like vintage, trying to tell vintages apart, that kind of thing?
It's funny. I got a call from a writer who did an article about the segment, and she said, one thing that I thought was kind of weird was he is asking you about food and wine pairings, but he's also working at this restaurant trying to get a Michelin star. I said, yeah, that's accurate. I said, most of us fake it till we make it.
Mhm. Yep.
I said, that is accurate. I said, the imposter syndrome is so high in this community that even I myself, after 25 years and, how many accolades later, still kind of go, ooh, did I get that right? Wait, is that the right pick? Like, ooh, God, they're going to find, oh gosh, God, I haven't studied that region in like 10 years and I'm supposed
Mhm.
to be this like whatever. And that never goes away. And I said, so that for me is very accurate because you are probably studying the night before and then you go in the next day and then you sell the wine and you sound like you're like the foremost authority. It's interesting. I will tell you that wine knowledge can be summed up in this one sentence that I heard. There is a huge difference between memorizing and understanding.
Mhm. Definitely.
And the only way you can understand it versus memorizing it is by putting it in action and use and then seeing that experimentation table side of I memorized this the night before, but now I'm putting it to use in a real life situation so I can understand it. And that is a lifelong thing. And I do believe that the way they're portraying sweeps like studying and kind of making it up as they go along is the most accurate thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna know everything when it's a category that is evolving all the time.
And taste, everybody's tastes are different. My tastes are so different from your taste. One thing post COVID, because they're studying the reason why we lost our taste and smell. So there's
Mm.
this never before sort of interest on our sense of smell. And out of all the senses, sight, hearing, our tactile, memory, whatever it is, our sense of taste and smell is the least studied. We have no idea. I mean, we have like the basic understanding, but there's so much left on the table that we don't understand of how we connect our sense of taste and perception to our sense of memory. And because they still don't know why when you have some people at COVID lost their sense of smell and taste. And I think it shows this huge gap in the medical community and research that needs to be done of how much our sense of smell adds to our quality of life. I mean, we all know when we get sick, it's miserable. I can't taste anything. There's no pleasure. Everything seems gray and dull. So I think that is something that is really, really interesting. And I think you see that with Sweep's character, especially when he's blindfolded, because really what he's doing is he's being human and he's sensing. And everybody's just standing there with their mouths open, watching a human being experience something.
Yeah, that's such a great scene. Sweeps crushed it, by the way. I mean, I think he was within 5 years on the vintage, but the Italian red, that was great. Alpana, I'd love it if you could just for a second put your critics hat on. You hosted Check Please, which is a restaurant review show in Chicago for 12 seasons. What is your critics' take on The Bear in its season 4 state?
So I do have a very specific criticism with The Bear, and that is I wish there was a little bit more portrayal of the mental sacrifice that hospitality workers have to make with agitated guests.
True.
So with the show right now, it's going over and beyond like, oh my God, you've never seen snow before. Let me bring you the snow. But hospitality is a two-way street. And there's so much giving from, the restaurant side as far as like, I'm going to suspend my life for the next 4 hours. And it's all about taking care of you and your needs and what it is that you want, et cetera. And the bear gets that right in the sense of if you come from a traumatic background, it gives you 6 hours to forget about that traumatic background because you're now using your trauma response system and almost sort of this ADHD-ness where you're just focused on the outside. But I think that it would be great. Like my sort of fantasy is that cousin shows up at somebody's house that gave him a bad Yelp review. He's like, did we
I would
not
watch that.
cop the dessert? Did we not take the entree off? But no, that wasn't like he shows up and then the Fact brothers are in the background. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would like to see a little bit more of like customers behaving badly and seeing how that they would respond to that. And I think it's great that they show the hospitality because we do come from a heart of service. But sometimes people be testing us.
Yeah. Corey, is this something we can run up the ladder and
I think I
see
would.
what
I'm
happens?
I'll talk to Chris and see what we can do.
Oh God, that's like my dream is seeing seeing cousin show up at the house with confronting
And he would be
an
the character
amateur
to do it
critic.
too. He would definitely be the character to do it.
Yeah,
which is-
absolutely. So that would be my one criticism. But I hope the show's on for a very long time. So there's still a long arc here. So you can't do everything. There's only 12 episodes, 10 episodes. So there's only so much you
10?
can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did want to just quickly jump into the physicality of being a somm because obviously there's a lot of knowledge and theory that's involved. But I think there are some intangible things that are so important and inherent to being a somm.
Yeah.
Whether it's, swirling wine and making it look like you know how to swirl wine and, posture, presenting a bottle. What were were there specific things that you wanted to nail down physically, either of you, that you
Not,
were important?
not particularly for this. Well, no, there was. So I told Corey, I said, money talks to money.
Mhm.
And you got to have the swagger.
Swagger. Swagger has to be.
Yeah, swagger. Yeah, like you whirl up, you know what you're talking about. You got it. You understand. You don't memorize. And I got this. And it's this level of bravado and confidence. And I asked Corey, I said, this is your character. How do you want to play it? Do you want to play it with, I don't deserve the seat at the table, or they're going to find out? And certainly there's elements that never go away of that. Or
Yeah.
do you want to come in here guns blazing of like, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm the Prince of Pleasure, and I'm about to bring you to your knees. And I said, selfishly, I would love for you to play it with swagger because I think, again, all those young men and women out there that want to pursue this,
They'll
they
see it.
need
Yeah.
to see, that I mentioned Kobe Bryant earlier. Yeah, it's got that swagger, man. That Muhammad Ali, I changed the world. And I think it's, and people want that. People want to be sort of wrapped up in that. They want to be hypnotized. And I think part of being a good service professional is that you take people on a journey and like, I got you, and that they just kind of get to relax and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. There's an interesting element of theater that's involved. It's sort of meta, I guess, for an actor. Corey, just when you're portraying sweeps, you are, embodying a Somm who is sort of figuring it out but has to also embody that swagger and bravado in service. So it's almost, acting within acting, because that's what a normal person would do is, try to pretend and not pretend, but, play up their what they can do to feel, more comfortable in that scene. So it's really interesting.
I think I said James Bond. Like you gotta,
Ah,
yeah, you gotta bring Bond. But it's like it's this James Bond thing. Like you don't want James Bond doesn't second guess himself. He knows exactly how he wants his martini, and people pick up on that. But particularly with male sommeliers, they always have like that sharp suit, the tie with the double Windsor knot, the little pocket handkerchief. I said, one of my friends, Dylan Proctor. So I told Corey to look into Dylan because Dylan is like the embodiment of that swagger. He's like, he got you. And he's got that Southern Texas drawl. And he was in that documentary Somm, which I recommended Corey watch too.
oh yeah, okay.
Just to kind of get sort of, because it's really interesting because they're kind of nerds by day and then like James Bond at
At
night.
night, yeah.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
suave.
Yes.
Yeah, so the female version of it is across the board. I certainly wanted to, my sort of thing was like, I know what I'm talking about, but also hospitality. And so I think for me, my sort of style came on for this. Like originally, it was for me to build a shell. Like, I used to wear my hair was like super short. I didn't wear any makeup. I was very androgynous. I wore black and white, nothing call attention because I wanted to take all of that femininity away. And I just wanted to be about the knowledge and my skill set. Over time, as I became more confident, the hair got longer, the makeup got better, the dressing got a little more feminine. But that was because I could just kind of lay down my weapons a little bit. So it was definitely more of like a defensiveness there. Women are not expected, I would say, to portray that swagger. Like, what does feminine swagger look like? We know what it looks like. It looks like Beyonce.
Yep.
So now I got like my Beyonce.
Man. It works.
So we talked just briefly before about the perception of wine in the media. I mean, it's definitely been stuffy and elitist, portrayed that way before. But it doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be the wine snobs that we all sort of make fun of. How do you think the Bear handles that perception of wine? This is for either of you.
I think just even making it part of the zeitgeist and conversation. I mean, I don't even think it needs people take what they want to take out of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what good art does is you see what you want to see. And I do believe that, a show like The Bear is a work of art. It's left up to the interpretation of the beholder. But I think with wine, even, there's so many different ways. Like some people needed to have that stuffiness because that gives them meaning. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm the type of person that enjoys the finer things in life.
Yeah.
And then for other people, it's about good stewards of Mother Nature. They don't use any, everything's all natural. It's sort of the old way of doing things, a return to kind of like the basics, and it's biodynamic and organic. And that's something that somebody believes in and they want to support that ethos. So I think there's room for all perspectives as long as people just buy wine.
Yeah.
I want.
That's the most important thing. Yeah.
Buy the bottle, support the businesses. Like you don't have to drink all of it. Like moderation, quality, not quantity. There's so many wonderful stories. Each bottle represents a story. It's an entrepreneurial story. It's somebody's family history that goes back 1,000 years. There's just so much involved in just getting drunk, and like I get it. Like you're not supposed to drink 10 bottles of wine every day. But a glass or two here and there, and supporting the stories and supporting the entrepreneurship, and becoming interested about it. I mean, listen, Dwayne Wade, right? He likes it.
Hey.
I'm actually meeting with I haven't tasted his wine, but he's got 3 by Wade that I'm tasting in a couple weeks, and I'm excited about it.
Oh,
Mhm.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. He makes wine.
That's dope.
Very cool. Did either of you have things that you learned about the other's craft, whether it was about theater or the restaurant business, that you learned through working with each other?
Well, I mean, she definitely gave me a lot of jewels on just on wine. Like, so
Yeah.
one thing I did notice, and she pointed out, was that when you have these nice restaurants like the Bear, and they have a nice wine selection and a sommelier, like as a somm, you're kind of expected. So I guess bring in a certain amount of money, like via the wine, from the restaurant. Before she said that, I never really realized how important, like, I mean, the bar is supposed to bring in money, but wine itself, I never thought about that. I never looked at that. I was like, oh, it's like, it's a really, really big deal, man. And like in prior to this, I had no idea that it was just like, it was this big of a deal in the restaurants with wine. I know people like love wine when they drink it, but like the responsibility that somebody has, you know. And then to go
Totally.
back to what you were saying before with Sweeps, like he's learning this on the job. Like, of course, they're trying to get the Michelin star. The restaurant is going over this big transition, but Sweeps is literally just going from like a runner to
Mhm.
now I'm training to be a somm. So it's like he has no choice but to just try to figure stuff out as he goes along. Like there's some fake it till you make it. Like it's a lot of that going on. And so like talking to her, she just gave me so many pointers, man. It just kind of opened my eyes up to like just the somm world. You know.
For sure.
Well, I would say for me, I didn't realize that I was in a world. Because you just becomes like, that's my everyday reality. And then you kind of take a 360-degree view and you kind of step out of it. I'm like, me sort of like having that. I've never told somebody who doesn't work as a somm what it's like to be a somm, and in the service of having him create a character around it. And I would say that gave me the perspective. Like I said, I'm a huge movie fan. Like I love movies so much. And it gave me this newfound respect of like all the ingredients that go into acting and creating this persona and creating this experience. And I look at movies a little differently now, and I just have so much more respect for the art of it, just of like, what is this person trying to convey? And having gone through that process of, my tiny little role of where I'm like, what am I trying to convey? And, it just really, when you see good acting, you're just, whoa. The Emmy nominations came out, and I thought Noah Wyle in The Pit was
Oh,
just
great. Yeah.
mesmerizing. And if anybody has never seen The Pit, it's like The Bear, but ER.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
And I also could relate so much to the Noah Wile's character, because that's what you do when you work at a restaurant. When you're running a restaurant, you're triaging 50 different vignettes. Of course, very different vignettes, like
Yeah.
nobody's dying, hopefully, in a restaurant. But, it's not a life and death matter. But you're still using your nervous system to go from one thing to the next. And how he was able to convey that with such pain and accuracy and emotion and exhaustion. And I was just like, whoa, dude. Like, I think, like you see, like they become that character. And that comes from this perspective of who is this character, and what emotions and feelings and sort of facial expressions and all that do I need to bring to the table to bring this thing to life? And I really learned that doing this little thing here.
Awesome. Yeah, just before we conclude, were there any, fun behind the scenes things that happened while you were filming together, or you know,
It was
was that
such a great
interesting?
experience. I gotta tell you, for me, it was Oh, so much. I mean, it was like a fever dream. I took like one photograph of the day, and I was like, I wish I had more, but now it lives in my memory now, which makes it even more special. But it was a couple things, like just oh my gosh, like I'm in the bear. It's like you're, you know, at the bar and this is happening, and then Eben Moss Baccarat walks in, and then Jeremy Allen White walks in. And Maddie's there, and like everybody's just there, and I'm talking to Sweeps, and it was just this like fever dream. And then all of a sudden we're in the scene, and Chris goes, "More, wait," and he's yelling, and I'm like, "Who's yelling?" And I look over, and it's Chris, and he was like, you know and he was, like, asking all these, like, crazy questions, like, some, like, personal questions, and I'm like, "No, no, I'm good, like, how am I gonna handle answering this?" Right? So that was really fun. Yeah, it was everything that you would think. It was my Make-A-Wish day. I was just like it was, really an experience of a lifetime. It was just so much fun. Yeah, so the whole thing was very, very, very
Yeah.
memorable.
It was great. It was great. And she gave me 2 bottles of wine to take home. So
Oh,
it was amazing.
interesting. What
Yeah.
what were they?
I don't even remember, honestly, bro. Do you remember what you gave me?
I gave you a Pinot Noir and a Robert Craig, Hell Mountain Blend, but I gave you Dellinger Pinot, which is one of my favorite producers, and then I gave you Robert Craig Hell Mountain Blend because you said that you like Pinots and Cabs, but I also wanted you to see the difference. We went through a whole wine boot camp, like,
Yeah, we did.
how
We
to,
did.
like I said, "Let me see your swirl." I said, "I can't have you have a bad swirl."
I was, and you know what? What? I was somewhere out the other night, and I swear, like right when I was about to swirl, I was like, I got to get this right. I'm like, if I hope she sees this, like the goons are coming for
I
me,
s
so I got to.
I
My swirl has
No,
to be
I
there.
think I said to him, I'm like, "Do you want a Reddit thread about how inaccurate you are? Is that what we want? We don't
Right.
want a Reddit. We
You
don't
don't
want
want
this
that.
to be a Reddit thread." And I actually told the team that because they had picked certain wines,
Mhm.
and I said, "Okay, it's got to make sense for
Yeah.
what
Right.
you're selecting." So I gave him like a whole list of wines and things like that. And so the other thing is we taste so much more than
Oh yeah, they
Oh,
chopped
what
it
they
up.
used.
interesting.
We taped for like an hour, and there was different storylines, different elements, different
Yeah.
angles. One was I was asking personal questions, about Sweeps of like, how do you feel about this? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you belong at the table? But to Corey's point, you just don't know what the writers are gonna do with
They're gonna
it
keep.
because
Yeah.
they have to look the whole arc spectrum itself. This
Yep.
is just one story out of, like, the whole arc, and so that was fascinating to see kind of, like, what they kept, and I think the end result was, yes, you see the development, so it served that purpose, but one thing that I got excited about was they left in tangible tips for the viewers that they could use in everyday life,
Exactly.
and I love that souvenir. Like, I love the idea of somebody like, "Oh, I learned this tip on the bear,"
Mhm.
and so I thought that was really cool of like, yeah, if you can see through it, you can have it with fish, and my
Yep.
customers are coming in now at the restaurant going, I know, fish and red wine." So we've launched this whole movement of drinking fish with
Totally.
red wine.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of people with the, what goes together line,
Yeah.
Someone
now. Yeah.
inboxed me the other day about I think they had fish and red wine. I had fish and red. I was like, okay,
It's gone viral.
it's a movement
Yeah,
now. It's a movement.
it has, it definitely has, yeah. Well, thank you both so much for hopping on, I really appreciate it. Corey Hendricks, Alpana Singh, uh, stream, The Bear season 4. It's a really great season of television. You can catch Alpana on episode 2, I believe. Is it episode 2?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, anything you guys wanna say before we
Yeah, come see me in Chicago at Alpana Restaurant, right there on State in the Gold Coast. So love to have you. Have some fish with red wine.
And binge all seasons of The Bear. That's it.
All right. Thank you guys
All right.
so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you later, Alpana.
Thanks. Bye.
I want to again thank Corey Hendricks and Alpana Singh for their time and conversation. What did you think about The Bear's 4th season? Are you looking for more Wine in the Spotlight in Season 5? Email us your comments and questions at podcast@wineenthusiast.com. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite shows. For more episodes and transcripts, visit wineenthusiast.com/podcast. I'm Jake Abrams. Thanks for listening.